Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's your girl, Becky D, live in the morning, 5 days a week, 7 a.m. Happy Friday, you guys. Today is not a flashback Friday or a remix Friday. Today is the end of a normal work week. But as you know, there's people who are not as normal as me, and we like to work almost 7 days a week. But the beautiful part about growing and learning is that you start to learn when you need to slow down, especially someone like me who has an autoimmune disease and all these other ailments. I have had to learn to drastically slow down, like without hesitation, slow down. But with that being said, I had to finally start taking ownership of my BS, right? I often sit back and reflect literally on the different jobs that I've had and the different means of income and the output, right? The bills, the rent, all that stuff. I often think about it and I was like, dude, when I first moved out of my parents' house, however many years ago, I literally took a low paying job, lower than the job that I was working at, worked a lot of overtime. When I tell you, I don't even remember what my place looked like at times. That's how much overtime I was working. I was already diagnosed with MS, so I probably shouldn't have been putting that much stress on my body. But my thing was that hustle mentality. I gotta get it, and I gotta get it now. It was so bad to the point where they'll be like, "You really can't work anymore. We're paying you too much." And I'd be like, "Okay." And then 2 seconds later, they're back. "Oh, someone just called out on a night shift. Would you mind staying?" You know I don't mind staying. Just, feed me. Again, my inner fat kid, man. You can win me over with food. But I looked and I was like, you know what? My rent was always paid. I was able to do extra stuff. I was always traveling. I love to travel. And I was never hurt. You know what I'm saying? I never was hurting for what I did. But then, as it goes on, I started making more money, different jobs, higher pay. And I kept questioning it. I was like, dude, I'm making money. Where is it going, right? Me doing foolish stuff, getting involved with people I probably should have never been involved with when I look back at it. And it wasn't anything like crazy, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't doing drugs, I wasn't in no gang or nothing like that. It's just things that I should have realized that I should have never gotten myself into, right? Certain relationships, certain friendships, and certain situationships should have never been my thing. And the biggest thing that I can say is that I finally took ownership. Like I would love for whoever writes in the top of Snapples and in the wrappers of Doves to reach out to me and take that ownership for like ruining my mental stability that day. Because literally I read those caps sometimes and it's just like I wasn't thinking like that today, but thank you. We even when we're driving and we're just like going all the time and we're trying to figure stuff out, we get frustrated, but we don't take that ownership. We don't just sit back and say, why am I in such a rush? Why am I so mad at this person, right? Like, literally, you can't make this up, was going from Target the other day, which is one of my favorite stores, apparently, just to pick up a few items. And, when you're in Target, Target is going to tell you what you need. So I'm just perusing. And I happened to be walking out the door. The guy who was doing the carts, he just kind of looked at me because he saw a little irritation on my face. But it was just, I was tired of the pace that the girl was walking in front of me. Can I change her pace? No. But it was just like, why are you walking so slowly, man? Like, I had questions. But I took ownership of how I was feeling because for some reason in my head, I was thinking about other stuff. And it was just like, ma'am, get me out of this store. From time to time, I'm very awkward in stores. You can call it social anxiety, whatever the case may be. But going into certain public places just rubs me the wrong way. It's a part of life, though. I gotta, eat and stuff. They do Uber Eats and all this stuff, but I have to get myself out there, right? I can't stay a hermit crab forever. So it was just like, ma'am, I'm ready to get out this store. I was impatient. I was ready to go. And I had to take ownership of that. If we can't take ownership of the past mistakes that we have made, of the past things that we have done in part of trauma, right? Like if something traumatic has happened in your life. Now, necessarily, I'm not saying that, oh, it's your fault or whatever. No. Hear me fully and not only take out the pieces that you want to hear, okay? Did you go and seek the proper counseling and therapeutic things that you needed to after your traumatic situation happened? Did you go and say, hey, I'm not okay to your doctor? I was last week or so, week before last, sitting in the ER. I wasn't there for me, but sitting in the ER talking with my partner about the car accident that my mom and I was in. And I was just like, went to the doctor for me after I almost like fought tooth and nail not to be seen in the emergency room after the accident. But my sister-in-law was like, no, go see a doctor. And in my head, at the time, I'm fine. Not realizing the adrenaline is just pumping through my body like some steroids. I'm like, yeah, let's go. But in that time, at that moment, I was fine. Go. When I finally get to the doctor looks at me. And without me saying it, she already knew what was happening. She was like, when's the last time you fell asleep? And I told her, I was like, honestly, if I doze off, I'll wake right back up. She knew that there was a little bit of trauma happening for me because I couldn't sleep. I didn't have to say it because thankfully my doctor knows me. But most people won't know you. You have to say it, as hard as it is, as tough as it is. A lot of people literally cannot read minds. And sometimes they don't want to because it's nothing to do with them. So unfortunately, you have to say it. And I call it reliving trauma a lot of times, but sometimes just talking through it is so therapeutic. I've sat in Ubers and Lyfts and just people just vent it to me and just let it all out. Sitting there in the elevator, it was a quick ride and people were just like spilling their guts because they feel comfortable enough to talk because that's their form of therapy. And sometimes I don't even respond. I went to, was it a Harris Teeter? Yeah, it was a Harris Teeter early in the morning, rushing to school, got there a little early. And I was like, hey, I really didn't pack anything for lunch. I got time. Let me stop. Let me grab a little something, right? When I said early in the morning, it was like 6 o'clock, okay? Or 7, somewhere around there. And the lady in there at the self-checkout, I was having trouble with my like store card or whatever it's called, to get the little points for the fuel. And I was just typing in my number, getting highly frustrated with the situation. And the lady, she just kind of wobbled over there. Like, she wasn't big or anything in that sense, but you could tell something was wrong. And she goes, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And I was like, I keep typing in my phone number and it won't pull up. And I was like, at this point, I'm just going to pay for it. Like, I don't know what's wrong. I'll look at it in the car. She's like, oh, well, I'll just let you use the store card. It's fine. And I said, oh, that's really sweet of you. You didn't have to do that. She does it, and I forgot that with their machines, you got to hit the card button so the card can read. It was just a mess that morning. And then she stops and she was like, yeah, I was just recently in a car accident. And I was like, what? Wow. And you're at work? And she was like, yeah, I didn't have any more time. And she continues to tell me her story about how it happened and how she was feeling and how she's taking care of her grandkids because her daughter doesn't have the means to and doesn't want to, and she's just going on and on. And literally that lady knew that she would probably never see me again, right? We didn't know each other from a hill of beans. And she just poured herself out and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm just talking your ear off, I feel bad. I said, no ma'am, you're fine. Like, I have the time this morning. And this is probably why I was meant to stop here, because you needed somebody to talk to, somebody to vent to, someone to get this off of you. And in that story, it wasn't her just pushing the blame on the other person who was at fault. She took ownership. She was like, if I didn't do X, Y, and Z, I wouldn't be in this situation. If I would have just told my husband that, we're going to have to figure some things out, then I wouldn't have to be at work. Then she tried to start thinking about her daughter's situation. Like, if that situation was different, maybe I wouldn't have to work to take care of my grandkids. I could just be retired. So she started taking ownership in that moment, and I had a moment to see that this life that I have is bigger than me, and the way I live my life is more purposeful than me. And true to me, I ended up going back to that same location. I think it was like 2 weeks later. Again, just making a quick little stop, and she was in there, and I just smiled at her. I didn't say, "Oh, hey, how are you feeling?" or anything. And I think it more so shocked her that I actually returned back to that location, and she was just like, I was like, yeah. And when I walked out, just a simple smile exchange. And I said, I hope everything's all right. And then I just left. Will I go back to that location? Heck yeah. I'll go back to that location and check on her again. I see that she works the morning shift, so it'll probably be in the morning, and just check in on her. Because people like that, they don't need people always hounding them and stuff like that. They just need that occasional, how are you today? Are you okay? And then suddenly, just that one thing that was going wrong for them that day just magically turned around, right? Taking ownership of your problems, of the things that happened in your past in some capacity. Maybe it's even just saying, hey, like I said this morning, I was like, man, I should have went to college with a better plan. I literally said that. But that's just because of the dreams that they sold us and the reality that we got. But I'm taking ownership of the other avenues and paths that I decided to take in my life that had nothing to do with the government, nothing to do with the economy, nothing to do with the rules and regulations that they're trying to stipulate and put into place right now with student loans and all that stuff. It has everything to do with me, the path and decisions that I chose, and that's my part that I have to take ownership of, all right? So today, this weekend, whatever the case may be, take the ownership, start the healing, start the process of finding new avenues and figuring it out, and just simply continue to build your health, your wealth, and your mental stability with your spirituality and your reality. All right. You guys, my name is Becky D with Becky D in the Morning. I do hope that you guys have a great weekend, and remember me because I will be working this weekend. And just continue to get rid of that same old BS in your life. And let's prepare for a rejoicing and meaningful week next week, you guys. Make sure you tune in, share with a friend or two, and just keep being amazing. My name is Becky D with Becky D in the Morning. I will talk with you all on Monday morning.